And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, this time to part 6. So I shortened the description to make it more accurate. So we're continuing to code the web UI and also the Arduino C++ side to control the sensors and actuators using mqtt. So let's get going. First off, a bit of overview. I did some UI cleaning up and some changes. I didn't actually really like the drop down. I added a better way to display it in a more compact way, so that's still going to change. So there are a few tweaks here and there, nothing significant since last time. And one I added was the button to get sensor and actuator information. By the way, I learned that transducers is actually the term that regroups sensors and actuators. So I didn't know that transducers were that. I thought it was a completely different thing. And so we had ways to set things on the remote hardware nodes, which is still using an ESP8266 base. We had ways to clear that. And what I would want to be able to synchronize things correctly and to actually have correct information from the actual hardware is the getting of um, that sensor and actuator information. So what we're going to do today is just focus on that. This is going to be mostly Arduino things with a bit of UI here. About that, so we have get, where is that again? Get configuration. So for now, I just added this on this end. We just send this command that is trying to retrieve that information. So let's get back to that. By the way, as you have seen here, there's only a single node today. That will make it easier to debug. So here you can see there's command handling, which is not the best, to be honest. For now, it's not really using topics as much as it should, so I will likely change the structure in a bit, but for now, that's absolutely not essential. So I'm just going to copy this handling of reset CFG, and this is going to be get configuration. We still have the need to get the target node to see if we're actually querying this one. If we were using a topic-based thing, more accurately, you would very likely use something like, as far as topics go, config, um, get, and node name, for example, things like that. Not entirely sure. I don't necessarily like too deep of a nesting, so I think we'll get to a middle ground. So what we actually want is to get settings. We absolutely don't want to format anything. We don't want to restart the ESP either. So a very important bit of information. I'm using Arduino Json. I had lots of hesitation to add a bigger library like that and to manipulate JSON in an Arduino. So that's why you'll see sort of, scroll to that, publish. So for some things, I'm still creating the JSON structure manually like this. This is not the most readable, and yes, I am using C, C++/Arduino string things. I still find them a bit more practical to manipulate than char arrays. I really need to look up how you spell char or how you pronounce it. Anyway, so what we're gonna do today is get I think. Wait, where was I? Set CFG, reset CFG, get CFG. So we want to publish that. We're gonna publish it on the config channel. Um, I'm not exactly sure, because if we're just gonna spam the config channel, um, perhaps I can do something like, I really don't like this, but at least it will be clear that we're getting back the configuration. So this is the topic, and here we're gonna send back the information about the sensors. Um, by the way, I still need to refactor this code because it's getting quite large. A lot of things already cut up into smaller libraries, which you can see here. So I have some specific code from QTT, over the air updates, PWM things, RFID readings. I had lots of issues with that, multiple versions. Um, so type definitions and Wi-Fi and things like that. So I'm gonna need to find that. So let's close this. We don't need read sensors. I want to remove the automatic formatting when you boot it up because that was a stopgap thing. And we have this thing which is called load sensors that gets the list of sensor data which is stored as JSON inside this configuration.txt. That should be JSON, but originally it wasn't JSON. So I'm not sure about the best way to send this whole thing over. So give me a second, please. Because we also might be stumbling on limitations as far as the mqtt package goes and as far as the JSON document goes. So I'm not exactly sure. We do already have all the sensor information here. So we can look up um, the library here. Arduino JSON is really well documented, so we can find actually quite a lot of good information. And I seem to recall there was something like sending UTT, saying something. PubSub clients, they have pretty much all the things covered. So this is to read um, JSON data from MQTT. So when you receive messages on a topic inside your Arduino environment, um, so what we actually want is this. So I already had lots of buffer overflows using this kind of thing, so we can always try it. Yeah, we're gonna see if that even works. So, what was it? It was CFG. So we can try this. We're gonna use this. So document. We're gonna get to that in a bit. So let's use that. What we still want to use is this topic. So get CFG. And the doc here, so let's just forget about these and that's not needed. Load actuators also, it's right now stored into separate structures. I use this to gain a lot of memory So using seeking inside a file to actually get specific data instead of bulk loading everything. Honestly, for this specific case of sending back the configuration, I do wonder if I want just well, rebuild the JSON manually. So let's see first if this works or not. So in this case, we already have a doc variable, and we need that. Let's go back to the actuator, and we actually want to load it all up inside our document. Let's do this. So now it's all inside Autodoc. So normally this loads the whole content of the configuration file into Autodoc, and it sends that into this buffer, and that one gets sent over. So let's just try this. Very likely false, but you know, iteration is good for you. Sorry about that. So let's upload it, and then we're gonna take a look at how it's complaining, because it will complain, believe me. Already was no major mistake, so something. Endless waiting times. Device monitor, let's see if there's something going on. Okay, everything seems fine. You can see the sequence is it's connecting to Wi-Fi, displaying the IP and the MAC address. By the way, the name, the nodes are derived from the MAC address. Over-the-air updates are okay. The file system, so littlefs, is also initialized, and then it sets up all the sensors, actuators after reading from the configuration file. So what we now need is to subscribe to this channel. So let's do that, I mean, from our UI. And so we're gonna do is this, subscribe, and that would be config.cfg, and we're gonna receive the message here. So first we're just gonna display it. So display it. Topic equals configuration.cfg, and we just want to display it. So let's getting config, and that would be the whole row message that we actually want to display. And I'm just going to check if the getCFG command gets sent correctly. Poll, that was not needed. That's another. You can actually set up sensor polling when you set the configuration. So of course we don't need that when we're getting the configuration. Let's go back to our UI, bing it, and we're just gonna get the thing. Message null. That's not exactly great. Let's see what's going on here. Get settings, so it did match, and why is, oh, and that actually makes sense because this node has been reset, so there's nothing saved. So let's add some dummy things. Sensor, an actuator, another sensor, infrared one. These are all fake and won't work correctly, but for now it's simplified. And yes, I think we can set that. By the way, I also added this that it automatically displays the node as offline as soon as you click on setting the configuration, because it reboots the node, so you don't want that. I should also disable the whole UI, I think, as soon as the node is offline, because it really doesn't make much sense to display that. So is it rebooting permanently? That's interesting. That's not working as expected. We didn't get any set command here. Wait, let me clear that and try again. Set configuration, and nothing's going on. So are we even sending that correctly? Set configuration. That should be working. Matching nodes, la la la. So we have that. The node listed all those things. Um, So I'm gonna double check if the command is actually being set correctly. So unfortunately this means we're losing data again. Um, let's just add one sensor for now to keep it simple. So oh well, that's strange. It seems to have worked this time, and it's rebooting again. So one important thing, currently when you're setting the, some information for the nodes, when you're setting information for the nodes, it's actually creating live, so it's assigning memory dynamically. So if you take a look at load sensors, it's actually creating, let me find it. Hmm, sensors. Here, it's actually allocating dynamically a list of sensor information structs. And honestly, I think there's an error somewhere in there because ever since I switched from static allocation to dynamic one, it started feeling, well, randomly like this. So wait a sec. So yeah, just to close this off, what I'm gonna do very likely is to pre-allocate a fixed size array of sensor information so that we don't have to deal with malloc and dynamic allocation because I very likely think that it's that. Also, look here, something is very off. Mode MCP sensor done. So this is in load sensors. So sensor done is called here. So mode, that's something we haven't gone into. Basically, each sensor is attached to a specific piece of hardware. Let me check if we can see that. It's this one. So that's custom hardware. By the way, I'm going to publish all these. This is open hardware as well. And so this is an MCP something something, I don't remember. Basically an IO expander that allows you to have 16 additional inputs, technically also outputs, but this is only used for inputs in our case. And so, where was I again? So yeah, the mode is actually whether it's attached to an MCP or something. The type is just here a char describing what it's turnout, whether it's an infrared sensor or an elephant or a plane or whatever. You also have the ID and pins, which we know already about. It also uses a truth flag, so whether 0 or 1 is considered to be the truthful value, or even if you want an integer and things like that, so that it uses this as sort of a matching value to trigger events that are sent back via mqtt. So this reboot thing is really very annoying. So I'm gonna reboot this manually. to see. So I'm going to clear this and reboot. And then we should be able to see if there's any anomaly in what it's reading back already from. And then there you go. As soon as it starts iterating, it fails. It also might be that the count of sensor is actually off. I had to do some weird trickery because it wouldn't correctly count the number of sensors when there's nothing else in this loop. But anyway, so normally we only set, oh yeah, there you go, there's already a problem. As you can see, there's mode MCP type T, which is turnout, which is absolutely not what we set. So I hope we can somehow squeeze that in. No, actually we don't. And so I'm not gonna reboot, I think, so we need to format this again. So basically what's going on still is that it's getting some wrong data from the configuration file, which is really very annoying. So let's go to little fs. So this is for getting the configuration, and this is to set it. So I'm gonna add an additional delay. I honestly don't know why it could be not clearing it correctly, but it seems to always come back to an older version of what was saved in the configuration file, which I honestly don't understand. And the same thing here. Let me check. We're using this flag to stop reading, well, basically the loop of reading the sensor values while you're modifying something. It's not technically needed, but it was to make sure. So formatting, I actually format the file system every time. There was an attempt already at fixing this weird bug. So we're using the config file in write mode. So as you can see, it's not write plus or anything like that. So it's not appending, it should be overwriting. I'm still gonna double check that. The documentation of little fs and like Arduino Json is not so good. So we need to look it up here. And yeah, there was SPIFF, sorry, SPIF file system, which used to be the older version, but that's considered deprecated, so I didn't even get into that. It's supposed to be more lightweight and things like that, so it's kind of a bummer, but anyway. So we're using that, we're using formats, and format the system. It should be, well, what we can do is format success. We can add something that allows us to make sure that it's actually formatting it correctly, because we might have some formatting issues. I actually had that before, and there was indeed some problem. That should be the other way around. So success. Let's go with that. So after it's formatted, it's opening it in write mode. So let's see what the documentation says about that. Opening files, la 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 la. And path mode. As you can see, we're using W, which is truncate file to zero length for create text file for writing. The stream is positioned at the beginning of the file, so it means it should really work as expected. So sorry about that. Write plus is for reading and writing, and it would be A for appending. And we absolutely don't want to append. We always want to, well, override everything. So it should be going as expected, writing, and sending all that document to config and we're even closing it correctly. So I'm not seeing any weird thing here. So this has been going on for a while. What did I do? Ah, yeah, of course. When you're used to not writing commas in one environment and the other, you tend to forget it. So let's see if it's changing. So I'm not sure how many other options we have. I could also store this information to EEPROM. Not sure. I wanted to keep this fast and dirty, to be honest. Whatever works, as they say. So normally we added the format called to the setup. Anyway, I need to think of a way to be able to detect these loops or something like that to automatically reformat it so it doesn't fail the same way. So because this means that every time we have to change this, upload it, remove it again, and re-upload it. Not exactly the most efficient thing. So that's done. Let's see what the device monitor says. So for example, here we should still have no sensors and no nothing. As you can see, it's doing that correctly. We still have 0 sensors, setup complete. So let's take a look. What happens? Just refresh it just to be sure. We're just gonna add a single sensor on ID 0, pin 0. So the type will be wrong, all the things will go wrong. We don't care. At least we shouldn't. And let's do that. What happens now? So what's going on here? What it's actually receiving is type turnout, ID 0, pin 0. Actually, I'm already seeing an issue. We're not adding the mode MCP thing, so that might be a problem. That might cause some issues, but it's still very strange. So format success, it's 1, so it means it actually formatted that successfully, and it's still rebooting continuously. So this is very annoying. MCP true 0, pin 0, ID 0, continuous 0. And what the hell? So it's still reading actuators from somewhere. So this is why I'm saying there's something wrong with the way the file system thing works, because format should, well, as the name implies, just remove everything, and that's clearly not what's going on. Which is really annoying because we clearly didn't define any actuators that are of type turnout and with pin 0 and ID 0. So this is all messed up. So what I could do is trying something already, not loading the actuators. So it might be looping endlessly because of that, because it's trying to get information that just clearly isn't there. Well, at least shouldn't be there. So that's the first thing. So let's see about that. Because we clearly didn't send over any turnout information. So, and at some point there was that information. So that's still failing. We still have that sensor. So let's check if we're not loading any sensor information either. Wait, what? And now it's not crashing. But even this kind of completely random thing, I don't know about you, but I don't like my devices to be completely random. So let's upload it again. What I could eventually do is actually put this into, well, use another file basically for configuration. But I still don't understand what's going on. And I like to understand problems before I solve them. Solving things blind, Okay, amazing. When it's not doing anything, it's not doing anything bad. So what I'm gonna first try is changing this to a static list. So originally we had this thing. Not sure about the best way of doing that. So we have this sensor info. Let's just try to change that. And let's use 16 because we actually do have maximum of 16 per MCP board. Yeah, it's not going to. Oh, yeah. So yeah, it's not gonna like that. So let's do this differently. Sorry, that's not what I wanted at all. So we're just gonna assign it from the loop. I don't really like that. Let's still do that. Right now it was returning sensors. We can just disregard that since sensors is now defined outside of this function. I'm still very much stuck in my ways of liking explicit returns and not dealing with outside variables, because this also means, for example, I couldn't move this to another module. So not that great. Okay, so let's see what's going on now. Did we mess it up even further or not? Okay. I also need to double check, is it defaulting to MCP? Yes, so at least that's one thing solved. And this seems to not crash right now. So let's try in this case. Let me do it again. What? So and go get. Getting configuration, type turnout. Ooh, kind of amazing. We do have that sensor. So that's very nice. Let me double check if the pin and everything matches. Yes, that's actually correct. So what we can do now is, since that part works, I'm going to try setting this multiple times to see if it keeps rebooting or not. And if that works, we can override, because the override should go both ways to avoid any confusion. Can we completely override the list of sensors and turnouts that are here? By the way, I'm just gonna check something here. Later note, so of course I'm not setting it. So ID 0, pin 0. Yeah, the time, we should omit time because that's just additional. That's interesting. So that got saved completely, which is something we absolutely don't want when we're setting that. And as you can see, this is a big timestamp information that is absolutely not needed on the hardware side of things, because the timestamp is generated on the client, because it doesn't really matter. Or it could be generated in the hardware, but you don't want to store it. That's absolutely bonkers. So let's first fix that. So what we want here, when we're from the JavaScript UI, what we want is something to be emitted. So sensors, matching node sensors, and we're going to map this. We're going to iterate over each sensor and actually just return. So ID would be, actually you have to do this way, ID sensor.id, pin sensor.pin, and let's keep the same ordering. Type sensor.type. We might need to do some other conversion as well. I want that command also. And how about that? We can just sorry about that. Some weird thing going on. So let's try and set things this time. And still, we're gonna add just a simple sensor. And what is it sending back? Sensors should be that ID, pin, and type. For the rest, we can see later. Okay. Oh God. We're still receiving a turnout triggered message, which shouldn't be the case, I think. Sensor triggered. So that's good. And now let's see when we refresh and we try to get the sensor information. Wow, yay! It's actually getting the correct thing. So that's good. So now we can add it multiple times. So just add, I don't know, not gonna be original, but add this and that and that. Wow, amazing. By the way, there's some weird sorting thing which I wouldn't have expected. But anyway, yeah, because I added auto incrementation of IDs and pins. So and let's just set that. Does it explode? Apparently not. Sensors. That's looking good. So is it rebooting? No, it's still offline. Is anything weird going on? Okay, this retaining of get settings is really annoying. Let me check if it's CFG to get back to that. And we don't want unpublish false. We don't want to retain anything. And I'm gonna check if set configuration. We have some autocomplete to node API. Oh, too bad we don't. So let's just see mqtt.js. So publish, and let's see where we can find that. Publish. Does it retain by default? No, it's defaulting to false. So hopefully that will work correctly. It's still not back online according to this. That's very wrong. Let's check. Very strange. We could try and ping it. Normally it should auto detect internet. We need to look into that later. So what does get us? Sensors. Did I forget to set it, or was there an issue? Because apparently this is still the single sensor variation. No, let me check again. We're gonna try to set that. Okay, this is really weird. It might, well, usually I did have some messages here that were telling me if the message was too big and things like that. So I'm not sure what's going on. Let's try and clear it to see what's happening. Okay, in this case that was normal, so it's cleared again. And let's try adding 1, 2, 3 to start off. And of course I need to, never mind. So, and transducer 1, 2, 3. Let's see if that works. Okay, so that worked. Good. So what do we get here? And we do have 1, 2, 3 sensors. Let's clear it again. And bing. No, not that fast, I guess. It's okay. Start again. Add 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if it works with 5. Okay, that's being sent. Okay, it's actually not even receiving it. So it might even be a limitation on the broker side of things because this is clearly not delivering it. That's interesting. Hmm. Um, okay, let's refresh that again. Ping. So let's see if it works for each four of them because that would be apparently the maximum, which is absolutely too low. Okay, that's still working. Interesting. So by the way, this was the original reason why I started replacing things like type turnout with just a T um, and everything else. So basically making the messages considerably shorter. But again, that's a problem for another time. We are still getting four pieces of information like that. I might even switch to non-JSON things for this kind of communication because it's extremely limited. So it's kind of annoying. Um, So yeah, because in theory we need to be able to specify 16 inputs and 16 outputs at the very least, and we're just very far from that. And also, I mean, it's a ton of repeated strings, so like type, all that thing. So it's not very efficient, but I still like readable code, and even a year from now, if I go back to this, I will understand what I was sending. The other way is to increase the size of mqtt messages and to increase the document size for Arduino JSON, but there's only so much you can cram into a small microcontroller. But anyway, so now we're getting this information back. So what we want is simply to override the all the sensors thing, imaging thing. So we're gonna use this piece again. We're gonna check if we already have a node like that. Normally, it should be the case, except if for whatever reason the node is not there. So we're not gonna try to set sensors for actuators in the end for nodes that aren't present in our UI. So that should make it easier. Um, So fun.sensors equals new data dot sensors. Oh, not quite, because we still want to add the obligatory other um, fields that we have in sensors here. So we're going to map this, and we're going to call that a sensor, and what it's going to be. So array, I need to find another example of what we have. We can add the timestamp and we can add the value. I guess we could also send the value over via mqtt from the node. I guess you're getting configuration. This is not the state. This is always a bit weird. So let's do this. So we're just gonna unpack that data and we can do it like this. That would be timestamp. I'm also really starting to dislike this timestamping thing because it's just a helper for now and doesn't have really that much value except to see if you haven't received something in a while. Also, to keep this stream not endless, I think this will be the last thing, so actually being able to replace this. And that's not working. Oh, of course, because we're not calling render UI. Again, this is both the advantage and disadvantage of dealing with explicit code, but explicit is always better than implicit. I think that was already part of the Python mantras. So still not. Getting configuration. So what's going? Oh, yes, of course, because we're not actually. Wait, no, that should actually correctly replace that. No, wait. It's actually always calling render UI, so we don't need to do that explicitly. So what are we messing up? Let's see that again. Bing, boom, bang. So let's go here. So what do we have here? New data. Sensors is indeed there. We have 4 of them. So we, oh, hahaha, that's a good joke. We're actually not sending back the node name. So let's change the Arduino side of things. And that's going to be a bit complicated. Because we're sending the JSON document as it is, and that one doesn't need to contain the node name. So what I'm gonna do, to be honest, is cheat a bit. You know, in the first stages of the project, and this is still an early prototype, it's whatever works. So what we're gonna do is just add a specific topic for configuration for each node. You could also say it should be config, node name, get configuration. Not sure. So that would be node name. So this should be all that we need. I think so. Let's do that. Upload it. So this should publish under each node's name. I really don't like that because it implies that we need some specific connection configuration. So basically we can't set this up once at the beginning. So this wasn't perhaps as smart because right now we would need this. Although, wait. Actually, we should be able to use the wildcards. Let me check. You know, in mqtt there are wildcards which allow you to subscribe to a set and subset of things. Okay, so that's not the right one. Just check. So the other should receive that message, get CFG, blah blah blah. You know what? Just to try this out, we're gonna cheat. Bad. Hard-coded is good when you're trying to figure something out. And apparently it's not doing what I thought it would do. Config get CFG slash node name. So let's see what this is actually all about. Serial.print. Sorry, print and line topic, and what would this be? Serial.print and then this. So let's see what that is. I really need to look into whether there's Arduino emulators. I looked at that like 10 years ago when I started this, or 10, 15, whatever, 12. And there weren't any really capable emulators to avoid this whole back and forth of uploading code, console log, la la la. So let's try again to get. So what is config slash? Well, that looks kind of okay. Didn't add a space here, but this looks remarkably like what we have here. I don't know about you, I'm not seeing any obvious differences or any at all, in fact. Hmm, well, that is odd. Hmm, it always has to be odd, doesn't it? We should be getting something. Also, at least the wildcards should be working, so very odd. I never remember if you have to add a slash at the end or not for wildcards. Um, seriously, nothing? Now wait a second. Why don't we... There's something weird. Um, unless I forgot to add, oh, of course. So let's see. Are we actually sending anything? Well, we know it's getting sent. So why wouldn't it work as expected? So we're getting that. And in case you don't know, just try it again. mqtt wildcard. Normally the pound should be the thing. Yeah, multi-level wildcards, so it should work for all these things. Let's try again with the slash. I'm really not understanding this. Get CFG. Let's go back to that one. Why it's not displaying anything is beyond me. I still think there's something wrong with the publishing on the Arduino side. It should be slash. This does seem to be quite alright. Um, hmm. You know what? I could. Let's do it another way. So let's forget about this. It's still worth investigating, but I'm not sure why it wouldn't, because that seems to be completely correct. So what did we have before? Let's go back to that. And we're gonna cheat and hack ourselves around a bit. So go back to this. And what we're gonna do is add a field in OtterDoc, which is nodes, and that will be set to node name. I hope this will work. This is really not ideal, so I'm not a fan. Well, it's not that bad, but technically we should still be able to get this kind of thing and subchannels working correctly. So I need to check that out. So let's see about this. And there you go. Ah, so, and that's not getting us the right thing. That's, okay, that's very odd. Autodog is what we're serialized. Oh, damn. That's kind of idiotic. Of course, if I overwrite the contents of the static JSON document here by doing deserial JSON, I can't add a field before that. So, third time's the charm. And then we're gonna close this thing off. This hopefully working amazing things. Where are we? Where are we? Yeah, sure. Okay. And let's try it again, and again, and again, and again. Huh. That's interesting. The message actually still doesn't contain it. I'm absolutely not sure why this is doing it. So let's try again. Yeah. I'm such an idiot. Oh, wow. I hope you spotted the error, or I hope you didn't spot it before me. What I'm doing here is doing a string match. This is not a wildcard match uh, for MQTT topics, so this can't work. So the other one might have been working, or very likely did, except matching it like this doesn't work. So yeah, wow. Let's see if this works then. Mhm. So we could use a substring or something like that, and that would work. So what is new data? Does it have that thing? No, it doesn't. So that's another problem. I don't know why it's not overriding it. Autodoc node. There's no name. Well, it should still work. Hmm. So you know what? As a last resort, we're just gonna try adding that thing back again. So config slash plus node name, and we're just gonna verify. So we're not gonna use the string matching here, but we're just gonna verify what the message was. It's still weird that we didn't receive anything, so I'm not entirely sure this is to blame. Should this fail, well, I'll see you next time and we can try again. It's really odd. Normally, assigning values to keys is literally just that. I need to double check. It does seem a bit too easy, too JavaScripty. So let's see about that. What here? And we really don't get anything back. And again, well, I must be getting tired. And it's because we forgot to subscribe to the wildcard here. So this should actually work as expected and amazing. Um, so yeah, I should be able to do this. We can use some of the newer JS features. I think it was includes, I always forget, but I think this should work. And then the node name would be not this, but something like that. Node name would be topic dot split slash, and this is really hack. We could regex or whatever, so it would be the third one. So this. So let's use that. No name. I really hope it works. I always like ending up on a good note. Bing, bang, and get. Amazing. It actually works. Just in case you doubt it, let's try this again. We have no sensors. Ta-da! We have the full list of things except for some reason poor sensor lost its spin. Oh, that's interesting. That seems to be cut off. Man, this Json thing I'm not sure about. Anyway, the basics of it all work, and we can continue next time improving things. We also saw that apparently the Arduino, so ESP side code works way better when using static allocation. So again, as a reminder, switching to this instead of malloc. And what I'm gonna do, I might do this off screen, depends because it's not exactly any different. The actuators should also be switched to that because it seems that a lot of the instability is coming from there. So yay, hooray for dynamic allocation. Yeah, they always warn you about it and for a good reason. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you had as much fun as I did and see you next time. Bye. And of course I need to switch to last screen because